creating new neuronal pathways, neuronal connections. And when you feed it with the right food and you're living a life by which you can live at peace, I think a lot of things come together for you in a very beautiful way. And I think it's really interesting to me that powerlifting was a great way for you to kind of battle through your demons and slay your dragons, so to speak. And I wonder how you see the barbell, but I see the barbell as an obstacle or as the dragon. And when I'm lifting the barbell, I'm imagining that dragon pulling me down or breathing fire down my back or breathing fire down my throat, cutting me off from expressing myself. Because the big thing with me has always been expressing myself. And part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast is to get over that fear. So anyway, the barbell is kind of a cool way for me to get over those things. I'm putting myself in the situation where, for my example, I'm not expressing myself. I'm too scared to do it. And this barbell is this metaphor for me. And as I'm lifting it through a deadlift, or I'm doing a squat, whatever I'm doing, I'm imagining myself overcoming that. I'm sitting with the feeling of resistance. The resistance is on my back. It's on my chest. It's all over me. And I'm sitting with that feeling. I'm not running away from it. I'm sitting with it. I'm facing it. And then I'm moving through it. And I think it's so powerful to be able to do that. And it's so cool to see you do that all the time. It's like you slap on a plate, slap on the next plate, next obstacle, done. Next obstacle, done. And each time you do it, you're stronger, not just physically, but there's so many things happening in an overall holistic sense that people don't see. They don't really see. So I just want to get your take on it. How do you see the barbell? How do you see it in your life?
Okay. Well, I had something really cool I wanted to say about the barbell.
Go for it.
So the way I see the barbell itself is not really the obstacle for me. It's the weight that goes on the barbell that the challenges arise. But it all depends on the lift. As of right now, I see the barbell when I squat. I wrote an article on this just this week about fear, and it's good to be afraid, because when you're afraid, you can use the chemicals that are released by the brain to your advantage to overcome certain things that you would not be able to overcome without that level of fear. It's when the fear gets out of control, when things really start to go wrong. So when I look at the barbell in relation to the squat exercise, when the weight goes on, I really start thinking about, am I going to be able to stand? Is it going to bring me down? So now it's a really big challenge for me. I've accepted that challenge. I'm going to continue to accept that challenge, but it's something I think about quite a lot. The deadlift, that's a whole nother beast. It doesn't. I'm more at peace with movements like the deadlift. As far as metaphor with the barbell, I'm not really sure how I see it, other than I feel like life has thrown so much my way that this is a controlled environment where I can throw something my way and I can continually test my inner strength. So, you may look at it as I'm testing my outer strength with my muscles, right? But I'm looking as more of a will to survive in a controlled environment, of course. And that's, I thrive on that, and I love it. When I survive and I leave the gym having maybe set a PR or did something I never did before, or, just hit my reps and sets. It's just a feeling of self-accomplishment, and it's a testament to my own personal inner strength. Like, I am capable of surviving all kinds of things that come my way, because, life is hard. Life is hard. And, if you can just, what Bruce Lee say, he said, don't pray for a easy life, pray for a hard one. That way you can challenge yourself. That's pretty much what he said. And I agree with it. Pray for a hard life. That way, but pray for it, so you can strengthen yourself through challenges. And the barbell for me is a challenge, and I love it because I know it's not going to kill me. And it makes me stronger. So,
I think that's powerful to note that the barbell isn't going to kill you, but I think a lot of it, I feel like, it is the mentality you bring to it. And
I'm sorry. Bruce Lee said, don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a hard life.
There you go. I think there's a lot of truth in that. And when you were talking about the barbell not killing you, I think it's the mentality you bring to the bar. And I think it's really fascinating for me to watch you. But here's my question to you: is like a typical an average person watching a powerlifter like yourself, and they see you lift a lot, what seems to them as a lot of weight, and it is a lot of weight. And they're looking at you and they're thinking like, yeah, I wish I could do that. I wish I could get into this kind of lifting. Like, I'm too scared. I will never be able to do that. How do I do it? These are some of the thoughts that I imagine some of these guys are thinking, but also that I've heard them say to me when they look at guys like you, or some of the guys that we have seen in Hyde Park Gym, or some of the guys you've seen in raw powerlifting gyms. And I don't think it's even necessarily them having to aspire to be just like you, but what would you tell them? Like, what would you tell them if they're interested in doing something that you're doing, but they're too terrified to even like touch the barbell because they're thinking that they have to lift 500 pounds off the bat?
Well, the first thing I would tell them or let them know is that they're not the only ones that think that way. Even I think that way. There are guys out there who I still look up to, and I still can't believe they lift the amount of weight they lift. And I've always been that way. But what I've realized is through consistency, and that's key, consistency. It means you consistently go to the gym, you consistently test yourself, challenge yourself, and hard work, you can do whatever you want to do. The question is, and you need to ask yourself, are you willing to be patient? And if you're willing to be patient and you're willing to believe in yourself throughout the process, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Like right now, there are guys that are my body weight that squat, nearly 700 pounds and deadlift nearly 800 and bench press 500. And I look at those numbers, I'm like, wow, those are amazing. But never once do I tell myself when I wake up, I'm not going to be able to do it. However, and I was talking to a fellow powerlifter friend of mine last night who lives in Minnesota. Shout out to Mike. I was telling him that, about 4 years ago, or, most of my life, you could have said, hey, what do you think about a 405-pound bench press? There's 4 wheels on each side of the bar. I would have said, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to lift that much weight. I had no idea. I thought you had to be on steroids, roided out to the gills to ever lift some kind of weight and be really big and strong. And it's not necessarily true. I'm 25 pounds away from capitalizing on that weight. And it's not even a hard 25 pounds because I feel like I just smashed through a plateau. And, all I got to say is you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to find it within you to create the person you want to be. I mean, no one's going to do it for you. You could have the best trainer in the world, but if you don't want it bad enough, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So instead of looking at people and thinking to yourself, hey, there's just no way I can do it, think to yourself, what if I could? What if I do put in this work and I wait? What if it does come my way? And when it does, it's going to be amazing. When I don't see this a lot, but when I see other lifters lift weights, I see them get mad, like when they set PRs, and they look like they're just really pissed off. I'm completely different. When I set a PR, I usually smile, and I just get so happy that I just want to, let some tears out. But I guess it's everybody's approach is just a little bit different. Just believe in yourself. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I think I think what you were saying, believing in yourself, is so important. But I also think having mentors like yourself, having mentors like a really well-seasoned person in the field is also beneficial because they can relate to you. I think they can really bring you a perspective that you thought was never possible. Because sometimes I think people look at powerlifters, they look at these athletes as superhuman, and to a certain degree, there is some sort of superhuman ability to do what they do, but at the same time, like, it took a lot of cultivation of their mind and their body. It was a process. It was process oriented. And I think as a society, a lot of times there's a good group of people that are very result oriented, and the PR is all they're seeking for. And I think a PR is important because it's a milestone to reach and it's a milestone to aspire to. But I think people get crushed when they don't get the PR that they're desiring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they look at like someone else. They look at you. They look at like some other powerlifter. Like, man, this guy's doing this much amount of weight. Like, I'm a puny weakling around this person. I can't do that. Like, how do you? Yeah. So what would you tell someone that's looking at like someone else and thinking like, oh, the PR is everything. Like, what would you say to them?
I would say be patient. I had this. I talked about the same subject last night with my friend Mike, and it's like what we said last year. My fellow powerlifting friend Mike, we were both focused on numbers. We wanted to deadlift 700, and we focused so much on the numbers that we forgot to enjoy the journey. You've got to enjoy the journey. If you just enjoy the journey and you believe in yourself, you believe that the hard work is eventually going to yield gains, then you will get those gains. But if you get so wrapped up psychologically in a number, then you're just doing yourself a disservice, and you're not going to enjoy it. And you might as well just stop, because it's just not going to be fun. And life, you should strive to be happy. And you know what? Powerlifting is fun. It's a way to challenge yourself outside of the confines of normal everyday life. So enjoy powerlifting.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to realize that a number doesn't define you, and I think this pervades into a lot of different things. Even like when women look at the weight on the scale, they're looking at themselves and they're defining themselves by their weight on the scale. Like, my worth is based on how much I weigh, and that's such a shitty place to be, in my opinion. And the same with guys. Like, they look at themselves in the mirror like, my worth is dependent on how I physically look. If I don't have traps, if I don't have biceps, I'm not worth anything. If I don't have a big back or big legs, like, I'm not worth anything. So I think it's important, like Josh was saying, is to really understand that you are way more worth than just some number, and to really enjoy the process of becoming stronger. Because every second, like every time you're breathing, every time you're moving, every time you're contracting muscles and doing things and engaging things you never thought you could engage, that is strength. That is a newfound perspective for your body. Enjoy that. I think it's really, really important. But I also think that what's fascinating about powerlifting is that on one side of the spectrum, there's this very competitive aspect of it, right? You go into a competition, and yet at the same time, it's still very personal. Like, you're competing against yourself, essentially, but your competition against yourself is being pretty much broadcasted amongst fellow powerlifters and people all around the world. And people are trying to set records and do all that stuff, which is really interesting. But then there's the other side of the spectrum. It's like your everyday person can powerlift and do it for a completely different reason, right? So, or there may be reasons that are very similar, but the main crux of why they're doing it could be very different. And I think sometimes people look at powerlifters and like, oh, that's just for the powerlifter, and only the powerlifter can do it because he's a powerlifter. And they just label you and put you in this box. But powerlifting has way more benefits than just competition. And could you touch on powerlifting aside from just competition?
Yeah, definitely. I can also touch on body dysmorphic image. So when I first got into the gym in 2008, I thought it was all about looks. Okay, so I have to look a certain way. And when you really get women or people, whoever you like, start to look at you a certain way, you really can easily become obsessed with how you look. So when I became a powerlifter in 2011, roughly after I started powerlifting, I decided that I was no longer going to look in the mirror, because I don't want to be driven by an image, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It doesn't matter how you look. It really doesn't. Not, and it shouldn't. Not in fitness, not in sports. That's not what we're trying to achieve. Something, an actual goal. And I stopped looking in the mirror. So I think if you're struggling with a body dysmorphic image, maybe just try lifting and enjoy lifting, the act of lifting itself, instead of worrying about your image. As far as powerlifting goes and health is concerned, I mean, if you want to be a better powerlifter, you got to stay healthy. You can't get injured. And one of the ways that you prevent yourself from getting injured is, you got mobility work, of course, but also you eat right. So if you can combine good nutrition with sound lifting habits, there's no reason why you should be getting sick all the time unless you're just predisposed to illness. But powerlifting is a healthy journey. It should be a healthy journey, because those numbers, like if you want to be the best in the world, you've got to at least give 10 years to 10,000 hours. And that's not going to come overnight. So why not, in the meantime, try to focus on getting healthier, keeping a low body fat percentage,